people to come march in the streets of Washington. It's going to be amazing. Just like a few requests from us as facilitators, which we'll introduce ourselves shortly. First is that please stay on mute on the call so that everybody can hear. And Erin, who's going to introduce herself shortly, is going to be monitoring if someone goes off mute and it's loud in the background. She'll just make sure to mute them. And so that's an important part. We're also recording this call because a lot of folks weren't able to make it onto the call itself because of spring break and other things, but are really excited to recruit. And so we're going to be recording it for folks and posting it online likely. And just to let everybody know, this call is oriented towards young people, students and non-students, and folks that are oriented on recruiting other young people to the march. And you're welcome to stay on the call if that's not you, but please be conscious of any space that you're taking up. We're really trying to prioritize the space for young people. So we're going to just start with some quick intros. I'll start with myself. Hi, I'm Becca. I'm the Youth Engagement Coordinator at 350.org, and I've been working on fossil fuel divestment campaigns for the past 4.5 years, starting as a student and then supporting campaigns while on staff. And I live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is where I grew up, and also do a lot of community organizing. And one of the reasons that I'm really excited about PCM is that it was a really transformative experience for a lot of people in New York and made a lot of people become committed organizers and start campaigns on their campuses. And I think big moments of the movement coming together and showing our power are really critical to help fuel the amazing local organizing that's going on. So welcome everybody to the call, and I'm going to pass it to Stephen, who is also one of the presenters for today.
Hi, my name's Stephen. I'm a student actually at Swarthmore College. I'm a senior there, and I work on the fossil fuel divestment campaign. And I'm really excited about the People's Climate March and getting a lot of young people there because during my sophomore year, we recruited a lot for the People's Climate March, which I'll talk about later, and it really helped give our organization like a big boost and help develop my leadership and help me show up much more strongly in like our organization and do a lot better work. So I'm really excited about all of that stuff that's going to come out of it. So I'll pass to Darren.
Hi everybody, my name is Erin Bridges. I am a campaign coach for the Divestment Student Network and work primarily with campaigns in the Southeast where I was a student in North Carolina. And I'm mainly excited about this just because I didn't get to go to the last People's Climate March because I was a student then and my life was crazy, and I actually started getting more involved with divestment after folks came back from PCM, and I'm just really grateful to be a part of the experience this time around and help get more young folks in the climate movement because we really need that right now. And I'll pass it back to Becca.
Awesome. Thanks, Erin. Welcome everybody onto the call. We're so happy to have you. And I said this earlier, but we are going to be recording the call. So just so you're aware, and you can share it with other people on your team or other organizers that you know who you want to share this with. So first off, we just want to start with reviewing the goals and details of the People's Climate March itself. And we're mostly focusing on recruitment to Washington, D.C., the large march on this call. But we're also encouraging folks who aren't able to organize buses and transport to DC to show up at the sister marches. There's already over 125 sister marches registered, and you can see them on the People's Climate March website. But talking about DC, the march is going to be on April 29th, and it starts at 10 a.m., goes till 4, and it's going to be in Washington, D.C. The exact start location is still being determined because of permitting. But I am excited to share some of the goals of the march that came out of the steering committee that has been organizing and convening this march. And just to share a little bit about the steering committee, the People's Climate March is actually being organized by over 40 organizations. There's a small steering committee that's about 15 to 20 organizations, and then there's a larger kind of convening body that's 50 plus organizations. And it really cuts across, it's not just climate organizations leading the charge. It's a lot of major climate orgs like Sierra Club and 350, but also the Service Employees International Union, SEIU, has been putting a ton of capacity into the march and is going to be bringing tens of thousands of union members to be there. The NAACP and Color of Change, the Climate Justice Alliance. So it's really an amazing kind of cross-sector group of organizations that are mobilizing their people to come out for talking about climate justice under the Trump administration. And that makes me really excited that young people are going to get to go and march alongside older union folks and with climate justice leaders and frontline leaders from Standing Rock and beyond. And it's going to be an amazing time in DC. And just want to get a little bit into the goals that this kind of convening committee has put together. And if you want to see the list of organizations sponsoring the People's Climate March, I'll put it in the side chat, and you can look at the full list. It's pretty awesome. 1 second. There we go. And so just to get into the goals of the march are to demonstrate power to resist and win. We're aiming to show enough collective power to slow down, neutralize, and or roll back some of the proposals by the new administration on climate and other issues if possible. We've seen people power be able to push back against some of Trump's most horrific policies, and we also know his administration is going full steam ahead. And so we know it's important to keep climate and the importance of climate front and center with an administration that's hell-bent on continuing to extract as many fossil fuels as possible. We know that we need to lift up justice and organize and execute a mass mobilization that is rooted not just in climate change, but in economic and racial justice that communicates to the administration, Congress, corporations, and global movements a powerful, expanding, and broad climate movement in the U.S. This is a time for us to flourish, and this march is a moment for us to come together. We're creating a movement moment that creates energy and excitement within the larger population on a broad set of issues beyond climate to move them to action and absorb them into existing movement infrastructure and partner organizations. Stephen's going to talk a little bit more about this, but one of the most amazing things about the first People's Climate March in New York was that it really helped bolster a lot of youth organizing and made our work stronger by creating a powerful moment that new people came to, and it committed them to doing organizing for the long term. And we're trying to build capacity, strengthen and build the capacity of our movement, organizations, and individual organizers to be committed for the long haul. This means more resources, new relationships, skills, tools, infrastructure. We're going to be getting into the skill of recruitment in particular on this call, but that's an integral skill for any organizer, and the opportunity to recruit and mobilize for PCM is a way for all of us to become better organizers. And, we are building a powerful structure and a support system to bring tens of thousands of young people to the People's Climate March. And we're coming to DC because we know that climate needs to be a national priority, even under a Trump administration. Whether that happens on the municipal, on the state level, we know that we need to continue fighting. And one other thing I want to name before I keep going is that there is going to be a youth convergence on Friday, late afternoon, late evening. The march is on Saturday. So just want to name that so folks can kind of keep that in mind as they're planning. So I want to actually have us take 2 minutes for us to share about why we're excited to go to the march. So in the side chat, just put down a sentence or two about why you're excited to mobilize and recruit other students to come to the People's Climate March. Nobody has anything to say? So Maddie wrote, the last PCM empowered me to get involved, and I want to do the same for other students at Penn State. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing, Maddie. Nice. Oh, I love reading these. Thanks, everybody, for sharing. And you can keep posting in here throughout the next little section. Zach says, I think it's incredibly important to show the world how many people care about saving our earth and protecting our future. Because young people should be furious that Trump and Tillerson and Pruitt are sacrificing our future, and I want to see us loud and strong. Yeah, it's going to be pretty awesome. We're probably going to surround the White House when Trump's in there with these 100,000 people. It's going to be amazing. So to continue forward, I just want to talk a little bit about why we're talking about recruitment, why have a training call specifically thinking about the idea of recruitment. The reason that we're talking about recruitment is because people don't magically show up to marches, and it actually takes a lot of work to bring people. And I think sometimes we can look at what happened with the Women's March, which was amazing and inspiring, and be like, wow, people just like show up to stuff. But behind the scenes, there were just hundreds, thousands of women, moms, organizing to bring people to DC. And we need to do the same thing for the People's Climate March. And that's what we're going to spend the rest of the call looking at, is what are the best practices for doing recruitment from your campus and from your community. And remembering that it's not just about recruiting people to the march, but recruiting people into the movement and bringing new people into organizing. And mass actions mean that we have to turn out a lot of people. And we've seen this, like, people are mobilizable right now. There's a lot of people in my home community in Lancaster, where I do a lot of my organizing outside of 350. There's like literally thousands of people who have never been involved in political work before, who are ready to take action and want to go to things like the People's Climate March. And we know that's true on our campuses and in our communities. And so this is an opportunity for us to step up as organizers and ask people to take that step, to come to an action, to be at this march. And recruitment can help grow our organizations. Every student organization, every youth organization is always struggling with having enough capacity, having enough leadership. Big marches, big mobilizations like this are a huge moment to bring new people into the work and grow our own organizations. And the other reason we're covering recruitment is just that it takes some planning. And we want to give y'all skills to be able to do really, really smart and strategic recruitment planning. So on that note, I'm going to pass it over to Stephen, who's going to share a bit about his experience recruiting for PCM last year and really get into some of the nuts and bolts of what a good recruitment plan looks like.
Yeah, thanks, Becca. So yeah, I mean, as Becca mentioned, and as people are mentioning here in the chat, the last PCM was really a huge moment for the climate movement and brought a ton of people into the movement for the first time. And helped develop like tons of organizations and lots of campaigns and stuff, both student and non-student. So as I mentioned briefly before, like recruiting for the PCM at Swarthmore was my first like really big organizing project. And it really helped me also like grow a lot as a student. And so Swarthmore is like, there's like 1,600 students at Swarthmore, and we managed to bring 200 to the People's Climate March in New York, which was super exciting. And yeah, this really gave our campaign a big boost. We had a training the week after. We brought 50 people to that training to get trained up on how to get involved in the campaign moving forward. And just coming off of that, there was so much excitement, a lot of new leaders. I go to Swarthmore College outside of Philadelphia. Yeah, there's so many leaders, and it also gave us a lot of momentum that really like went through the year, because we could sort of look back to this big march when there was like so much energy and stuff. And yeah, so being the campus lead was like what gave me a ton of skills. Like as Becca said, like really like core organizing skills around recruitment, around how to coordinate a team of volunteers, how to reach out to other groups, navigate stuff with funding and fundraising. And it really set me personally up to show up a lot more effectively in my investment campaign and other organizing that I've done since. And probably the just like thinking about some of the lessons from the recruitment at Swarthmore and other places, probably one of the most important things is just sort of really early on establishing really clear goals. So we set goals broken down over time. So we said, okay, if we want to reach this X number by 200 people by this date, then like 2 weeks before that, we want to have like 150 or something. And we also sort of did it by method. So we planned, okay, we're going to get this many people by tabling, this many people through email and social media. These groups are going to turn out this many people. So really broke it down in that way so we could sort of get an idea of, okay, where do we need to, how much work do we have to do to get to our goals? And where do we need to do that work? What are the gaps? And yeah, and then after setting those goals, it was really important for us just to like dive right into recruiting. So we really use like a really wide range of recruitment methods and the ones that work best are going to depend on your campus. And I think really the advice I would give is just like experiment with like a bunch of different ones. And so we had a poster that we put up all over campus that had like a bit.ly, like a short URL that people could use to sign up really easy. We did chalking. We did tons of tabling and canvassing just to get like lots of face-to-face interaction with people. I think that was like a really huge key for us of just being able to have the conversations with people, explain the stuff, and try and get a commitment in person. We did group outreach. We did like one-to-one conversations with group leaders and asked them, hey, can we present, like make a short pitch about the March at your meeting? Did the same kind of thing in a lot of classes. And then of course we had like a Facebook event. We did some stuff on social media. We did email blasts. And then we also did a little bit of phone banking and text banking with like people that we already were in contact with, just to try and make as many asks as possible. And we're actually working on a sample toolkit with some like information about like an online form where you can like easily like collect names and stuff, sample pitch, sample flyer, that kind of thing, and integrate some of the best practices and learnings that we've had over the years. Because I know for us, we sort of had to like, we spent a lot of time thinking, okay, what is the best way to like set up this like Google form? And initially it wasn't that great. Yeah, and then I guess, yeah, and obviously like this is like a lot of like outreach and like conversations, a lot of hours, but like luckily we don't have to do this alone. And we built like a really great team of people who were taking on different roles, and that was a really great way for like to invite other people like to step up into taking more leadership. So we had roles. We had like a campus lead, which I was, and then we had someone doing bus logistics, someone like tracking the signups, someone taking care of the funding. We got all of our funding actually through our college, through the president's office and through the sustainability office. And then also, yeah, just like having like different outreach teams based on like the tactic of outreach. So we had like a flyering captain, a tabling captain, and these different things, so we could really delegate this responsibility. So like I wasn't like sort of like drowning under all the stuff. And yeah, and I guess like one last like concrete thing around outreach is just like follow up. Follow up is super important because, you know, especially if you're getting your school to cover a lot or all of the costs for the buses, people will just like sign up, and if there's no money attached, then they might drop out or they might forget about it or something. So just like texting, calling people, reminding them about what's happening, sending them follow-up emails with logistics, and stuff like that, which we'll talk more about on another call. And then also having like a system to track people who are interested and are like saying maybe. And, you know, with buses in particular, it's really important that like we're getting really solid yeses and not like counting maybes as yeses, because like we don't want to have like too many extra seats on the bus, for instance. Or if we have maybes and where our buses are full, then we're letting people who might want to come, we're preventing them from coming. And especially right now, people are really waiting to be asked to like get involved. And we've seen that with a lot of the marches and stuff, but people still like need a push, because it's like really easy to sort of like create an excuse of like, oh, well, like I like don't really want to because finals are like the next week. But a lot of people like really want to, and if you like sort of nudge them a little bit, they'll go. And we were actually really surprised by how many people came out, because we initially only had 3 buses, and then like a week beforehand we were like, oh wow, we are like really rolling with the recruitment, so we ended up finding a 4th bus. So yeah, just like really asking people to like take part, and I think people are really excited to do that. And then in addition to like these like concrete things, I also wanted to share a few tips around just like the atmosphere on campus. So there are like three tips that I break it down into, and the one is like make it hype. So make it something that people like are excited about, that are talking about. You can do like create lots of buzz. So like you can do op-eds, art builds, small actions leading up to it on campus to sort of build hype. You want to really make it like the cool thing to do, like a fun thing that they can like do. Yeah, like a FOMO moment. It's like a fun thing that they can do with their friends. There was this like cool moment we realized partway through recruitment where people like started like coming because they were like, oh, my friend's coming. So just like asking people who have committed to like ask their friends, and like creating this like atmosphere like, oh, everyone's going, are you going to the PCM? So yeah, and then also just like make it simple. Like people have like limited amount of times of attention span, so just have like a 1 to 2 sentence short pitch that communicates your main points of like the what, the where, the why, and the how. And yeah, just like repeat it a lot, and don't be afraid to repeat it. And then the last one is just make it matter. So like tell the story that Becca mentioned at the beginning of the call about how there are these marches in all different cities, like sister marches in a bunch of different cities, how there's this huge coalition coming together of labor, environmental justice, racial justice, faith groups, and how we're all coming together at this really important time to send a clear message that we're going to be organizing for climate justice under Trump, and that it's needed now more than ever. And yeah, and I think just the last thing I'd say is just like sort of like keep like as you're moving forward to the march, like be checking in with and getting support from like the webinars, and also from like your regional lead as you're moving toward the march. If you're like having trouble like or trying to troubleshoot things, just like don't get hung up on things. So, cool. Now I'll pass it to Becca to talk a little bit more about like the specifics of the bus organizing.
We're actually gonna go into buses in a minute and start and just see if anybody has any questions for Stephen. I know recruitment can be a little daunting, and we are really encouraging people to set high goals for how many people you can turn out. So would love to hear if anybody has any questions specifically for Stephen on how to set up a good recruitment plan and some of the strategies for turning people out. So you can either go off mute and ask your question, or put it in the side chat. Do endorsing organizations support civil disobedience actions that will create buzz leading up to 429? I'm actually going to hold that for the next Q&A, and we're going to just stick to specific recruitment questions right now. And go to Zach's question. What did you think the most difficult aspects were, Stephen?
That's a good question. I mean, I think really like starting was probably the hardest. It was just like, okay, like we got to do this. It's going to be a lot of work. But because I feel like once we got going, there was just like a lot of energy and excitement around it. And it actually turned out to be like easier than I expected in some ways. Like, because people like really want to go to marches like this. But yeah, I guess one complicated thing was like just dealing with like the logistics of like the buses and like figuring that out, and then like figuring out like the like liability forms and like that kind of stuff that was like sort of like last minute things. And just like, yeah, I think we didn't really do enough forward thinking of like what kind of system we wanted to create for like people reserving a seat, and then like having all of the relevant contact information. And that's part of the reason why we're like creating this Google form that has like, that's like sort of like thought through based on best practices, is because as like students doing it for the first time, we sort of like didn't design things in the most helpful way sometimes.
Thanks, Stephen. Do other folks have any recruitment specific questions for Stephen? He's here and ready to answer them. Live action.
Oh, so Marissa says, how many people were on your recruitment team? I think we had like 6 people or something. But then like people were like giving varying levels of time. So I think the biggest roles were sort of me and one other person who were holding a lot of like the like bottom lining and then the bus logistics and stuff. And also sort of like the back end of the form and like figuring out who was coming and like how many seats we had and that kind of thing. But then we also had like a lot of people who were from different groups on campus, or had expressed interest in volunteering, and we're just like sort of signing up for tabling or canvassing shifts and that kind of thing, so that we didn't have to like be doing that all the time. But I think it's definitely like, I don't think you need like a 6-person team to make it happen. And in reality, it was like more like 3 people.
I have a question for you, Stephen. How did you ask other people to take leadership roles on your recruitment team?
I don't think I did it like the best way, honestly. A lot of it kind of just like fell into place, and like it was like, oh, like these are buckets of work. But I think I wish I had just been like, okay, here's like a clear responsibility for you. Like, I need you to like watch this form and then make sure that there's like follow-up emails and then like the day before, like follow-up text messages and stuff to all these people, and be the point of contact for them if they back out, and then like give us updates and stuff, and just like give them like really like clear defined roles. And also like be thinking about, especially if especially like thinking about like what's going to be like an exciting thing, or like what's going to be something that like these people are good at, which I think I was sort of thinking about. But I think just being really conscious about that's good.
Awesome. And we have one more in the chat, Stephen, from Aaron. What's a realistic proportion of how many people you get the word out to versus how many people actually show up?
I guess it depends on what you mean by get the word out, but I would say that like in terms of like a lot of, like one way to think about it is like rule of halves is like, but I think with buses it's a little bit different. Like I think people take it more seriously. So like, and you can also do like fun things. You can like we asked them to like give their student ID number, just like and like that, just like make it serious, like make it like you're signing up for this thing and you're like committing to a seat, and emphasize to them that like if they don't come and they back out, then like they're like taking a seat from another person. So yeah, just like really sort of like not just treating it as like a sort of lackadaisical, like I'm going to say I'm going to go just to say I'm going, but really be like, are you actually serious about going? And yeah, maybe not phrasing it exactly like that, but in terms of like, yeah, that's your question? Yeah.
Great. Thanks. Thanks, Stephen. So we're going to move forward. We're going to have more time for Q&A at the end. So we'll get to Mary's question, and if other folks have recruitment questions that come up, we'll be able to get to those. And so keep thinking about questions. If you don't want to forget it, feel free to put it in the chat throughout. And so I'm just going to go over, a bunch of people have reached out to us about organizing buses. And what does it take to organize a bus? So obviously not everybody is going to come to the march via bus, but it's definitely a big way that people are going to come. The People's Climate March centrally is setting up a system to support people who are coming, and you can sign up as a bus captain, and then you will get pulled into weekly calls to support you in bus logistics. So whoever is the bus logistics person from your team should sign up as a bus captain, and we'll get a bunch of information. The PCM is setting up a location where buses can drop people off, and Erin is going to put a link in the chat with some bus information, which is really helpful. And so that is being handled. There's going to be a central PCM bus coordinator that's going to help everyone get their buses into DC and get them out and make sure that that's happening smoothly. You don't have to just handle that alone. Now, we've also gotten a lot of questions about if and how money is available for supporting people bringing their buses. There is a pool of money being doled out centrally by PCM. It is being prioritized to go to frontline and people of color-led organizations, low-income communities who may be harder to bring people, but there is some money available. But that being said, especially for those of us that are students and on campus, we really encourage you to reach out to the funding available at your school. Last time, a ton of people got commitments from their president's office or their sustainability office or their environmental studies or other departments to actually cover the majority of their tickets. And that was a really good way to leverage university resources to be able to support the People's Climate March. And students often have access to resources that many other people don't. And it's a way to, throw down the university's money for the movement. And other people have done fundraising from sympathetic professors, other students, parents, alumni. So think really creatively about ways to do that. We make sure you register your bus with PCM at the link that Erin put in there. And if you can't book your own bus, we encourage you to look for other buses in the area that are being organized and reach out to local chapters of 350 and the Sierra Club, who are two of the major groups booking buses, but a number of other organizations in different parts of the country are booking buses. Like I know in Massachusetts, the Better Future Project already has 16 buses booked, and in Vermont, there's a bunch of buses already booked. So reach out to those folks, see how many students they're able to take on their buses, and make a plan with them. And it's also a great way to start doing community building if you as a student or young person haven't been working with the other climate organizations in your area. And I'm just going to drop in one other document, and we'll send this in a follow-up email, but here's a great cheat sheet on how to organize a bus. If you've never organized a bus before, it has a ton of great details on how to do that. There's a lot more websites that help people organize buses and find local bus people than there have been in the past. So a lot of that information is on that cheat sheet, and it walks you through all the kind of details about how to think about doing ticketing and keeping track of people coming on the bus, etc. So I know sometimes logistics isn't the sexiest, but it is an awesome skill to have. And especially for a person that's new to the campaign, but is awesome at logistics, it's a great role to have people step into and can be really, really fulfilling. And one other note on a question that we've been getting from people, right now there is no kind of centralized housing plan. People are working on setting up different options, but and we may be setting up folks to be able to stay with students at local campuses. So watch out for information, but for now, think about your own housing plans if you need to stay overnight in DC, like if you come to the Convergence or you stay Saturday night. So that's the update for now, and hopefully we'll have more information moving forward. So those are the majority of the bus details. Just to recap, start booking your buses now, look for funding from your university, and check out the cheat sheet and the PCM webpage for more information. I'm going to pass it back to Stephen.
Cool. Yeah, logistics are a lot of fun, actually. I really like logistics. So we're sort of on the home stretch now, but we wanted to give everyone a little homework to do. And I sort of alluded to this before, but I think like some real like concrete next steps that everyone should take if they haven't already is just set a goal for how many people you can recruit. And yeah, as Becca said, like aim high, like people like, make it realistic, but also make it something like it's really like yeah, it's sort of an ambitious goal you think will like be helpful in like pushing you all to like get really big numbers, because if we're going to have like tens of thousands of young people in this March, like students like all of us are going to need to like step up and recruit a lot of people on our campuses. And so yeah, and then like make a backwards plan like week by week and sort of like break it down by methods of like, here are the different ways that I'm going to recruit people, like I mentioned, and then create a team, sort of like ask some different people, will you take on this role, take on that role, and especially like prioritizing like getting people to like start figuring out the work around the bus logistics, and funding stuff. So if everyone who is willing to commit to do that in the next week, put a yes in the chat. Woohoo! Okay, great. You all are already on your way. It's exciting. So I'm going to pass it back to Becca to talk a little about some of the like support we're going to offer you all, because this call is sort of like the first of much support.
Yeah. Thank you, Stephen. And thank you everyone who put yes in the chat. We're really excited to support you in turning out tons of people. And I just want to cover, so you're not alone. We are setting up an awesome structure to support folks in their organizing. And it's rooted in the model that we used last time to recruit to PCM. And the way it's set up is really to support people on the ground, on campuses, in communities, to have the most support that they can have to do the best recruitment possible. So we're going to be recruiting a contingent of campus and community leads who will be taking responsibility for organizing folks within on their campus or in their community to turn out young people to the PCM. So that's kind of our big base, tons of people. And then from there, we're going to have a team of regional or state leads who are going to be supporting teams of campus community leads to do their work. And regional leads will host weekly calls with campus leads, check in one-on-one, help you set recruitment goals, help you workshop your plans. If logistical things go awry, support you. And then supporting the state leads are going to be a team of national leads, which includes me and Marissa, and we're bringing on actually a full-time organizer to specifically support recruitment to DC, and they'll be on next week. And so that national team will be supporting the regional leads who are supporting the campus leads. And we have this all written up in a very clear Google Doc so that you can read it, and with some more details on what the responsibilities of folks are. So for campus leads, you're going to be responsible for using social media, on-campus advertising, and organizing networks to recruit students and student organizations to attend the march, building a recruitment and logistics team on your campus or in your community to coordinate outreach, transportation, housing, build relationships with community groups in your area and collaborate with them to attend with an eye towards long-term collaboration that makes sense for where you are, and checking in with regional leads once a week until the march. And so we have a Google form. If you are interested in being a campus or state regional lead, you can sign up here. And the reason that we're saying state regional, mostly it's going to be state leads, but in some places like New York City, we might have that be organized by region or the DC area rather than fully by the state itself. So I want to give folks a minute to fill out this form if they're interested in playing one of these roles. We do have a bunch of state leads on already for New Hampshire, Vermont, Pennsylvania, and southern New Jersey, DC and Virginia, potentially Ohio, but we're looking for folks in other states to step up to be state regional leads. So if you have capacity and interest in building relationships across your state or region and supporting other people to do recruitment, that's a role that you could take on too. So you can fill that out. And we're going to be also having more webinars to get into even more details and on what this organizing looks like. We're going to have one on art, which is actually going to be a webinar with more folks than just young people. David Solnit, who's a really amazing artist who made a ton of the kind of beautiful big pieces of art for the PCM last time. He's going to be teaching us how to create parachute banners before the march that we can each have and bring, and our campuses can design banners beforehand and bring them to the march. And so there'll be a webinar about that in about a week and a half. We're going to do a social media and storytelling training about how you can tell the story of the march from recruitment to after the march, through the march, and after the march. We're also going to be doing a webinar on absorption, which is basically just the idea of how, once you bring hundreds of people from your campus or your community, how do you continue organizing together and pull those people into organizing for the long term? And we're also going to do some kind of follow-up mass training calls on recruitment itself. So we're really excited about those. And like Steven said, we're going to be sending a bunch of resources and a pretty basic toolkit to you all in the next few days that will cover a lot of the things that Steven verbally went over. So if you weren't taking vigorous notes, we're going to have that in a much more written form. But that shouldn't stop you from starting to think about how many people you want to recruit from your campus, making a list of people who can be on your recruitment team, talking if you already have a campus organization, thinking about how this fits into the work you're already doing. Today is the day to start recruiting for the PCM, and you'll get even more updates and logistics information and like support on how to do that in the next few days. So that is the end of our, oh yeah, I just saw this thing in the chat. David is awesome. It's going to be a really cool webinar, so watch out for details on that arts one. And one of the things they're trying to do for the PCM this year is have every city, town, campus bring their own pieces of art that represent their vision for the future. And so the march is going to be this whole beautiful, have all this beautiful art from all over the country there. One more thing before we go into the Q&A, I do just want to remind folks that there are a lot of sister marches happening, and to check those out. We're really focusing on bringing people to DC because that's where there's going to be 100,000 plus folks. And so we encourage you to try to come down to DC, but there's also a ton of amazing marches. I know if folks are on the West Coast, there's really amazing work happening in Los Angeles, San Diego, the Bay Area, in Oregon and Washington. So really good things, I know, in Denver. So there's a lot of good things happening on the West Coast for folks that it's too far. There's people talking about doing a youth convergence in Florida. So we'll try to keep everyone in the loop for folks not in the kind of like close enough to come to DC area. So we have about 10 more minutes left on this call, and we're going to take 10 minutes for questions. I do want to address Mary's question that she asked earlier about our endorsing organizations supporting civil disobedience. So the lead up actions, individual organizations are hosting actions, and some of them are civil disobedience and some of them aren't. I know the Central Committee, sorry, Mary, the Central Committee is going to be just mostly focusing on endorsing the march itself and the big recruitments coming into it. And that's one of the interesting and exciting things about the PCM. There's lots of different theories of change and organizing in the march. And that means that not everybody is like as excited about civil disobedience. And so there's going to be a range of recruitment actions that different organizations are taking leading into the march to bring this beautiful thing together. So thanks for asking that question, Mary. I appreciate it. Do other folks have general questions? And you can go off mute to ask or put it in the side chat. Yeah, so that is still being figured out in terms of bus support. And I don't actually have an exact answer on what bus support is looking like to sister marches, but that's something that we can get back to you about. So what are some specific strategies to get people to go? Stephen, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like a bunch of different things. I think something I want to highlight is something Aaron reminded me of in the chat, which is like having in-person meetings too. Because we did that. We had like a film screening of like a film about climate change. I think it was, I forgot what it was. and then we had like a meeting like a couple of days in advance, sort of just like go over logistics, like hype people up. And I think we had like one other interest meeting. So having like things that people can come to, having art builds, potentially doing it like an action or some kind of something on campus, writing op-eds. I think really just like, just like really like adapting to your campus context of like what are ways to like create buzz, and make it really exciting. People should just, if they have other ideas, just like chat them in there.
Do you want to talk about Art Build, Darren, and what experience you've had with them?
Yeah, I just think art builds are just a really great way to get people really excited and in a space to get creative, and especially with this idea of like creating something specific to your local context. It could be a great way to bring people together and like tell the story of where you're coming from. So basically what you can do is like get all the materials that you need together. Where I was a student, we would dumpster a lot of the materials. That's like a way to save money, or like go to a thrift shop. You can also often find like really cheap materials there. Make sure you have a bunch of different scissors, tape, paintbrushes, and invite all the people who have signed up to the space and assign people to specific projects. And it's just a really awesome way to like start talking about what you all are going to be doing on like for the action, and getting to know each other so people feel comfortable.
Totally. Lindsay put this in the chat, and I think this is awesome. Doing op-eds, letters to the campus community newspaper, really creating a lot of buzz, and we'll include some like samples of that in the toolkit actually. But like having a student write about why they're having students write about why they are excited about going to the PCM to hype other people up. And banner drops, chalking, all these awesome creative ideas. Great question, Erin. Is it reasonable to frame this as an anti-Trump action, even at the risk of alienating Trump supporters? I think that depends on your campus context, honestly. I think the march is not explicitly framed, and Lindsay, you know some of the messaging if you want to jump in, but it's not being explicitly framed as like anti-Trump, but it is being framed as anti the administration's policies and calling out the level of climate deniers and fossil fuel executives who are sitting in the White House. So I think making it about the fact that this administration is repealing and revoking all of the minor and major steps we've made on climate over the past 10 years and on civil rights, racial justice, economic justice, and orienting it that way about our kind of how our rights are being stripped away is one of the most powerful ways to talk about it, and really talking about how the administration is not facing the truth of climate change. And so we need to be out in the streets talking about it. Stephen or Erin, you guys want to add anything else about that? Okay, cool. Do anybody else have any other questions? We're here to answer them. Oh, great. The bus logistics one. Okay, let me edit that. Ooh, great documentaries that'd be good to screen. Anybody have suggestions? So there's Disobedience, which is online for free, which was made around the Break Free actions last year. There's also some great ones on fracking that would be good to show. And any other suggestions? Oh, yeah, Disobedience. Oh, yeah, Lindsay, great idea. Before the Flood is Leonardo DiCaprio's new climate change film that my mom keeps telling me how much she's crying about it, even though I haven't watched it yet. So motivational. And I think it's available for free online. So we can include a list of documentaries, but well, look, the crowdsourcing gone wild over here. Really love this, guys. So we'll include a list, but there's some really awesome, oh yeah, the This Changes Everything documentary. That's great. There's tons of good ones out there to check out. And that's a good thing to like ask a department to help sponsor, and a way to have them support you recruiting. Any other questions that folks have? Okay. Well, we really appreciate everyone for getting on this call, and everyone who's going to tune in later to watch the recording. I'm really excited to see all of you in DC, or see you at Sister Marches, and for all of us to really use this as a moment to bring more people into the climate movement. The next 4 years are going to be so critical for winning at a local and state level on climate, so that we can build the power to be able to change what's happening federally, and to really see the action that we need taken on climate. And there isn't a better time to make the climate movement stronger. And this march is going to be such a critical part of that, for us to come together and show our power, and be refueled to continue the fight. So I'm just really excited for all of us to go in, and also just to learn amazing recruitment skills and bring tons of new people into the movement. So thank you all for getting on this call tonight. And I hope everyone has a great rest of the evening and a great Monday. And feel free to reach out to me or Steven or Aaron if you have any other questions. And we highly encourage you to fill out the form to sign up as a campus lead or a regional lead, so that we can get in touch with you with all the materials and ways to get involved. So thank you all. I hope you have a great rest of your night.